So Sagrada Reset, second to last episode, episode 24 is the last episode of this wonderful series next week, and I have to say I'm very impressed with this series. It's gonna come as no surprise, everyone who's been following the reviews, they know how much I love it. But I love how this master plan has seemingly come to a close, and everything's going to work out. The only real obstacle left is going to be the witch, is going to be our main character's kind of like crush who is a friend but loves him kind of a thing. And it's all going to come down to that kind of final conversation with her as well as Haruki, and that's going to be interesting. But this episode was good. It was primarily just a car ride. That was how it was going down. But I love how this kind of works because the conversation between Kei and this bureau member, the director there, it seemingly seems like he's trying to persuade him into agreeing that powers should stay in this town. We know why he doesn't want powers, what happened to his family, things like that. He thinks powers are evil. You can clearly understand why he feels that way. But I love how the entire time you're not actually thinking about the guy in the passenger seat who has the ability to transport messages to other people. And you never really think much past that, even when Haruki is pretty much has two people going against her, and you're just like, how did Kei predict this? What is Kei doing? And all along throughout this episode, I'm thinking to myself, well, obviously he's going to persuade the director, and the director is going to call off the attack on Haruki pretty much. But I love how the reveal comes down to this entire car ride. It was never him trying to persuade the director, but try to persuade, I think his name is Kaguya, and essentially get him on board that power should stay in the town, and instead of, the director's father being pretty much petrified and having his time stopped, what they should do is transfer basically the burden onto something like a cat. We know there's a character who can talk to cats, think into their minds, and have a cat, and we could find a cat willingly want to do this and would have the mentality to use this ability. So transfer it to a cat so no human has to basically get hurt in this situation. And ultimately, Kaguya gets on board with Haruki. And that's such an unexpected twist, and I think that's one of the most unexpected twists within Sagrada Reset. Because the way they directed it is there was very few scenes when you ever really saw the passenger seat. I think we didn't even really focus on it in the episode. I know we did in the previous one. But I love how the entire time, because Kei saw the future, he knew a plan to get this to work. And ultimately, after the timeline where he basically lost abilities in the town, he talked to the director when he no longer had abilities for 2 hours, and he got to know him, and he realized the one way that he get over this obstacle of the director is essentially he has to focus his time on someone who he doesn't think is a threat, which is Kaguya, because Kaguya is someone who he trusts and knows won't betray him, but he never kind of put a guard up on him, he put a guard up on himself, so ultimately, this is something he couldn't predict, and ultimately how he loses. Even Kei himself in the car putting a knife to himself, saying like, you have to keep driving the car, you have to be my accomplice, otherwise I'll hurt myself. Kei had such a master plan that the way it kind of fell into place was spectacular, and I loved it because Kei is a guy who can remember everything. Seeing into the future, he could make the master plan, and I think this master plan was just amazing. Of course, there's gonna still be some trouble next week. We do have to watch the preview. It's very kind of like, okay, how is Soma going to do this? Like, what's gonna happen between her and Haruki? Her mind's kind of shattering after leaving. Like, what ultimately is gonna happen there? But at the very least, it does seem like Powers and Sagrada are going to be able to stay here. And I love how it came full circle here. Sagrada Reset has this very interesting ability that it can make the most simplest and boring of scenes entertaining. Is that one episode where we're just sitting in like a karaoke booth for the entire episode and it was just amazing dialogue, even when they're just staring at a phone. This episode is a car ride, and it was amazing. The scenery hardly ever changed, but the dialogue was so intriguing and entertaining that you couldn't help but just be glued to the screen and just so impressed by what was going on. And I love this episode, and I'm so excited to see how this is going to go down, because really, I mean, with that car ride, I thought Kei himself was going to take on the burden of being the one who has his time stopped, but it seems like a cat should be able to be sacrificed. I love animals and all, but if someone's got to be sacrificed, a kitty, I think is probably the best outcome, so everyone can live happily ever after in this town, because like Kei says, abilities are like your hand or your feet. It's a part of you. There should be no reason that we should get rid of it when it can help so many people, even if some misuse their abilities. I mean, what else is to say? I love this episode. I love this series. I'm so excited to see how this is going to end next week. I'm hoping Soma doesn't do anything crazy. Her mind shattering didn't, give her a split personality disorder, but I'm hopeful that Kei has predicted everything, but time will tell. Let me know your thoughts on Sagrada Reset episode 23. How did you find that master plan, and how excited are you for the final episode next week? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and before you leave, smack that like button, share your support for the new channel, be sure to subscribe. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.